How to have your own N8N server completely free, as the beauty of this program is that N8N works for free if you run it locally. So let's go to n8n.com, okay, and we'll enter the first window that appears from here. We'll go to Docs, Documents, and as you can see, it already shows up there. Docs, self-host N8N, basically. We're going to hosting N8N. We'll use npm, which they say is a quick way to start on a local machine. We need node.js, so let's get that. Once we have it, we need to open the terminal. We can search for command prompt or use Windows plus R and type cmd, whichever you prefer. From here, we'll type npx n8ne. This is if we don't want to install node.js. It says we can try it using npx. If we want, I'll try it. It'll ask about packages. I'll say yes. But meanwhile, let's see what happens. What we should do is use npm install. Paste it here. It says we can specify a version like this. For the next version, use this. See, it's getting both. Press O to open the pack. Press O and there it is. A login window opens. We're on localhost. We'd enter our info here. It says run npm funds for details. Basically, start with N8N. Type N8N here and it should start. It says it's in use. So both methods work. That's how easy it is to use in host mode. How to build your first AI agent in N8N. First, we'll create a new workflow. As we know, N8N needs a trigger, something to start or execute it. We'll add the first step. Our trigger will be a chat message since we're making an AI agent. Let's go back and click back to canvas. Now you should see the chat option where we can talk about AI. If you see the lightning bolt for trigger mode, click add, then advanced AI and select AI agent. Here we can choose the agent type, but to keep it simple, we'll configure it from outside. We can add a language model, or rather a model. In this case, we're going to add OpenAI. It's important to input your OpenAI credentials. Go to platform.openai.com, then to API. I won't show the API key, but you'll generate it there. Again, that's platform.openai.com. You'll need some account balance to use it. If not, try another AI, but ChatGPT is efficient. DeepSeek was the cheapest a few weeks ago. Let's go to model and select GPT-4 Mini. We're making our first agent, which we can modify anytime. It's been added successfully. For memory, it'll store our condas. We'll use Windows Buffer to save the last 5 messages. Finally, we'll add a tool to it. The calculator is the simplest tool, making it easier for AI agents to perform arithmetic operations. As you can see, there are many more tools available, so don't worry. Let's connect the calculator, and once again, we can pull back. As you can see, we can connect more tools if we want to. Now, to use this AI agent, our first agent, which currently doesn't do much beyond answering questions, we'll demonstrate how it works. This will help you understand how N8N's AI agent creation system functions. We'll go to the chat, open it, and ask a 1+1. As you'll see, it will show us all the processes here. Basically, it's first stored in memory. That's where the 1+1 input happens. It's at the code level, and we can modify all of that. Then it goes to the OpenAI model. The input is system. You're an assistant that helps me. Again, all of this can be modified. Then it's asked to do 1+1. It passes through the calculator tool, which says the result is 2. ChatGPT then combines everything. The result of 1+1 is 2. I asked for a number here, but it's unrelated to the calculator. If I now ask what color a lemon is, it'll say yellow. So that's it. That's how you can create your first agent. How can we create an AI agent with long-term memory and storage? Well, we have this project here by Joseph Lepage called it Show. It's the AI agent chatbot, except we can find this in templates, open it, search for it, and it'll appear. Basically, what this project does, though I don't have the APIs set up, is that we send it a message we want to process through artificial intelligence, an AI that, thanks to its memory, already has a database based on previous responses or even on the storage we've provided. As you can see, there are 2 storage points. We send the message, which then combines with long-term, or rather long-form notes, which are basically stored in this case in a Google Docs document. You can change this to whatever you prefer as long as it's a text file. But Google Docs works well, and it also stores notes separately. What's the difference between the two? Well, essentially, the long-term memory would be information the AI agent needs to know permanently, like if the user works with Zelda, HTML, or XLSX, for example, or if the user prefers concise, indirect responses without explanations, and so on. Things that are more permanent. On the other hand, notes would be important information about the user, but more temporary, like this Saturday at 8 p.m. I have a meeting. Once it's no longer Saturday at 8 p.m., storing that info becomes useless, so we don't need to store it permanently. Then these 2 inputs are sent to a merge, which basically combines them directly in append mode, placing one after the other, and then we pass through an aggregate that puts all the data in a list, outputs it in data format, and finally sends it to a model. As you can see, the GPT-4 or mini model is currently connected here, but we could remove it and connect DeepSeq v3 if we prefer a cheaper option, as this works for GPT, DeepSeq, and any other model. Then we have an option, which you can see is marked as optional, to save the chat we just had in memory, which would be separate from the memory we created. It's more of an internal memory provided by N8N, storing the last 50 messages, with code to save each received message. Finally, we have a tool to save long-term memories and notes. Here we can see how it's set to text format, inserting at the end of memory, which is important, and likely does the same for other notes. It's set to set manually with simplify on to streamline saved responses, and that's it. It'll give us the answer. To interact with this LLM, click here in the chat, type your message, and if all APIs are set up, it'll work without any issues. Alright, how can we import an N8N template to localhost? Okay, as you can see, I'm currently on localhost. To set up localhost, open CMD, type npm blah blah n8ng, then n8ne. Got it? It'll probably tell me I already have one open. What did I type? There it is. I typed O, see? And it opens this section. Okay, this is my localhost. How do I know? Well, it says so up here, localhost, right? So how can we now import a template? We simply go to template, okay? And search for, say, Google Sheets, whatever's free. We enter and just click on use workflow, all right? Click use workflow, then import template to localhost. This way we use templates locally on our server, not relying on N8N. Alright, now I'll show you a Telegram chatbot designed by Edward here. We can access it by searching the template. In N8N, we go to templates. This section here, just search for Telegram AI chatbot and you'll find it. So, this creator's work is exactly what you see here. Basically, this chatbot has a trigger. Obviously, everything provided is fully customizable. If we don't like a setting, we can change it. That's why I'll explain how it works, so you can tweak things if needed. The trigger for this automation is simply a Telegram message. So when a Telegram message is sent, well, we should connect the credential here. When a Telegram message is sent in a chat, the bot responds. We start with this pre-processing from the notation. It prepares the message to send to the setting. Here we see the model temperature configuration. We set it to 0.8. Temperature affects the model's creativity level. We're setting the message length to 500 characters. We're sending this command here. We tell it it's a friendly chatbot. We could change friendly to professional. The username is this small JSON variable here. It's extracted from the Telegram trigger message. We then say, and your language system is, here we input the language system we're using. Finally, we say first detect the text language, then provide an answer in the same language. Include various emojis in your response. If we didn't use emojis, we could remove this last line. Alright, next we have the send typing action. This doesn't mean it'll send this message. It means the bot will pretend to be typing. Instead of getting an instant automated reply, it'll show that the bot is loading a response. While it's loading or processing, it'll start to, the typical typing in WhatsApp. My mom, for example, shows as typing. That's what the user will see through this. Then these two actions are combined as input. Once both options are completed, merge puts the two inputs together. Basically, as you see, it checks the command. It says if the operation doesn't start with a slash, that means a command isn't being executed. The output will be 0. If it starts with /start, the output will be 1. For /image, the output will be 3. And for a final output, it'd be 3 for a new /command. So basically the 0 coordinate. Output 0, which means no /command. This happens when no command is provided. See the 0 output connecting to ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT, but it could be something else. Here we'd have the full message and more, where the chatbot would simply comment. Then /start is basically a welcome message, and create image is essentially a request. Like, hey, generate an image of this, all within a Telegram chat. This text reply is for sending messages, and send images for sending images. As you see, you can customize this. It's all set up already. You can add more outputs if you want. Go down, click add routing rule, and add another output. There's also a section for errors here. It's fully customizable to your needs. Alright, today I'll show you how to perform an OPR, or more precisely, how to extract text from a PDF file. This workflow, created by Amuden, is called Extract Text from a PDF for N8N. You can find it in the Templates section by searching for this name. It'll load, of course. There it is. You'll find it here and it'll appear. It's been around for 4 years, so it's quite old. How does it work? Well, basically it's triggered when executed. We can change this and set a different trigger if we want. But essentially when the script runs, that is when we click test workflow, it'll read a binary, specifically the PDF file. We need to provide the file path, and basically we need to use it on localhost. To use it on localhost, open CMD, type N8NI. If you don't have it, search N8N localhost. It's free. Then go to N8 and hosting documentation on guide. Go to NPM and do this. Put this, then type N8N and you've got it. Once it's on localhost, go here and input your PDF file location. In this case, it's here named ptf.pdf. If I open it, it's indeed pdf.pdf. This will read the file in binary form. Now I click test workflow, it runs and reads the PDF. I can hit download, save, and extract the PDF as text. Some PDFs are converted to images like scanned books or document. This could be scans of books, images, or other things. Basically, this prevents the content from being read or copied. Now, if we wanted to take this file and translate it, we add a plus, choose OpenAI or Translate, see what's available. Google Translate, for example, and we can translate if we want. Set the main language or use OpenAI as we prefer. How to insert and read Google Sheets data using N8N. It's really useful actually. I've used these features with Make, and I assume I'd have used them with N8N if I'd known about it then. Basically what we can do is, well, we have this workflow, right? It's just for explanation purposes, okay? It's by Amuden and it's free. You can find insert and read data from Google Sheets in the templates section. And basically what it does is, it uses a trigger that runs when executed, when clicked, or when we manually test the workflow. So we start with a set where this set establishes values. It sets ID to 0 and does the same for other fields. It creates a new variable called name and sets its value to N8N. And basically what it does in Google Sheets is, well, we should add the credential, but as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, right? Here we put the spreadsheet ID, okay? The ID would basically be, if we have this spreadsheet link here, the ID starts from 1, alright? This would be the ID, and I think it goes up to the A, okay? I think it's up to here, until the slash. This would be the ID, so we'd put our spreadsheet ID there. As you can see, we have the operation, right? Here we specified the resource type, if it's a sheet or spreadsheet, okay? And there we have the operation. If we want to add content to our spreadsheet, if we want to clear it, if we want to create a new spreadsheet, if we want to create and update the spreadsheet, if we want to delete columns or rows in a spreadsheet, right? So here we tell it which row we're in, basically. We've told it we're at 0, meaning we're at the very beginning. You know, vertically it's 0 to 1000, horizontally A to Z, right? Well, obviously there's more, isn't there? For the horizontal range, we've said it goes from A to B. So now we'd be adding info, in this case what we've put here, right? Then we basically have the read function, okay? It's essentially extracting info, which we put in red operation. Well, you could scroll down, okay? In red mode, we can update, remove, and check for matches or synced columns. Again, the ID, okay? Once more, the range. Here we specify which row to start extracting data from, right? This is very simple, okay? It doesn't do anything yet, but it can be useful for info from OpenAI. It can even serve as a database, okay? You know, OpenAI chats don't have much storage. We can use Google Sheets to store responses or whatever, okay? We can get great use out of this, and that's how it. How do you create a WhatsApp chatbot? Essentially, this WhatsApp chatbot will receive messages and, based on the input, go through one of 4 phases. It has 4 functions, but we can add more. This is just a sample of what's possible with N8N. By the way, this template is called Respond to WhatsApp Messages with AI Like a Pro. It's by Jim Luck. You can find it in the templates section. Look for this post. A template freely available to the public and community. Now I'll try to explain how it works. First, we have a WhatsApp trigger where we assign a credential, our WhatsApp credential, and basically what happens here is that whenever we send a message to the bot's chat, the bot will reconnect this message and split it into separate messages to load the message based on what we're asking for. Right now, there are 4 options. As you can see, 4 outputs in this redirect message types, where one gets an audio URL, another gets a video URL, and an image URL. Basically, we have a chatbot that if we send it audio, video, or an image, it will download the audio, video, or image, and pass it through the relevant software, or LLM, in this case Gemini. It explains here that if we don't want to use Gemini, we can use other software that does the same thing. Then it sets up the format response, configuring how the user will see the final message, as we're seeing. We'll pass it through an AI agent again, working with a memory of only 5 messages. It'll use Wikipedia as a tool to give us a better answer, and it'll be using the Google Gemini chat. Finally, it's going to respond to the user. I think I've got the gist of it now. This tool here, as you can see, has outputs renamed as audio, video, image, and text messages. I haven't mentioned the text part, but it's there. As you can see, this is a variable splitter that detects if there's audio and sends it. If there's audio in the WhatsApp message, by the way. If there's audio, it renames the output and sends it to the audio message output. It detects videos, images, or anything else as text, sending it to the text message output. Then, after various processes, each person sets up their own configuration. Obviously, I understand this isn't what most people are looking for. You might need to remove this without any issue. From here, create a new redirect messages. Create new redirect messages, reconfigure what we have here, and customize your bot from this template. Having a bot for every situation might be a bit excessive. For sales, user queries, or database connections, versatile. I have a video on how to create a database. We could upload the database to a Google Doc. We'd access the Google Doc info to answer questions based on that data. How to create automatic WordPress content with Deep. Our colleague New Italia shared Automate Content Generator for WordPress with DeepSeek R1 23 days ago. You can find it if you go to templates and search for it. He published this template, which I'll explain to you so you can modify it to your liking and use this template to create your own WordPress automations, or perhaps use this exact template, right? He explains that this workflow or tool is designed to automatically generate SEO-friendly content optimized for our web pages ranking using DeepSeek R. It gives ideas on how to structure the article, headers, questions, information, and more. The image will be uploaded via OpenAI or made with DALL-E 3, and this flow is meant to run manually, okay? Here's the trigger. You see it's manually executed for now unless we modify it, right? They're telling us a preliminary step. We need to create a Google Sheet, okay? With the following column. Date, got it. And the columns are vertical. Date, prompt, title, and post ID. I think they're vertical. I'll confirm. Yes, 100% the columns are vertical, okay? So what does this prompt do? Basically, this prompt says to connect your Google Sheet, right? We'd enter our Google Sheet credentials here and connect it, okay? As you can see, you've selected Sheet within document, right? That's a document, well, a content table. So how will it identify the document? We can do it by ID, as he set up, or by URL, which makes sense, okay? You insert the document and sheet URLs, and that's it. Simple, right? Here it says, set your prompt, okay? This is where you manually input the information from the cell, got it? Then we use that cell info to generate an article with DeepSeek. Alright, we can use any model, not just DeepSeek, of course. Remember how we created a variable earlier? With set your prompt, we made a variable now placed here. See, it says you're an SEO expert, write an article on this topic, okay? It gives you the topic and all the instructions, right? This helps generate a more polished article. Lastly, we generate the title, as WordPress needs a specified title. Then we'd create the post. Inside it, we should also link WordPress, but within the post, as you can see, it ends up putting the DeepSeek result in the title and the article result as additional fields. Got it. Then it generates the image and publishes it on WordPress via APIs, okay? Using the WordPress API, right? Not much else to it, and here it once again stores the image and such. It also adds a value, which is crucial. It names the image. I notice it doesn't add a description, which could be useful. Finally, it does a set image for the newly created post and all that, yeah? Lastly, it updates the spreadsheet. That's how this prompt works, okay? It's really simple. You can automate it, use it as you like, and improve it as much as you want. How can we sync Perplexity AI with N8N? For those unfamiliar, Perplexity is basically a Quanda tool, okay? It's like other Quanda tools, but it's becoming quite popular. Basically, our colleague Emmanuel Bernard has created a completely free workflow, alright? We can find it in the template section. It shows us a brief demo of how Perplexity AI works, right? It tells us that for setup, we need to go to the Perplexity API, get the API key, and in this box here, we can enter the credentials to use it, basically. So how does this tool work? Well, basically the trigger once again is test workflow. That is when we execute the script, we'll set the parameters, okay? Basically, the parameter name exists, right? Okay, it's sent in text format as we're seeing, and what it does is, well, we tell it, you're an N8N fanboy? Well, this is silly, just an example, okay? This is what we'd be telling it. Then we have the user prompt where we ask about the differences between N8N and other tools. And finally, in the last variable created here, domains, which I accidentally created, we specify the domains to use for the search. N8N.io and email.com. This determines what kind of data it should look for, right? So here in Perplexity, as you can see, we're going to insert the message, okay? In other words, we assign the system role. Remember, we set it as an N8N fanboy in the parameters. Well, here it is. We have the system role contents and system prompts in JSON format. Then our prompts about the difference between make and N8N, and finally the domain. As a side note, how can we configure Perplex? Beyond defining its role and ours, what else? Or rather, what's our question? What things are quite important here? We've also set the temperature, which is how creative it is in answering our questions, right? As you can see, we've set a low temperature here. We don't want it to be too creative, but rather to extract information from the given domains and stick closely to the question we've asked, right? There are various configurations available, okay? But really, the most important one is what I've just shown you here, alright? So we'd receive the input like this, okay? Once we get this, it produces an output, and once we have that output, we'd have it here, see? In this message here, where we get the output message, okay, as shown, it saves the output in this message content and the citations here. That is, the sources it used for the information are stored in this other part. Got it? These are some things you can do, but there's much more possible, okay? This is just an example of how to use and configure Perplexity. But instead of sending a prompt, you could send a Google Sheets cell, allowing you to send multiple cells, right? Like in a loop or something, you can do that. Or if you don't want the info as output, you can store it in a Google Doc, Drive, or PDF. That's possible too, okay? So good luck and get creative with how you use it. How can you set up your own Google Calendar agent? Basically, our colleague Dataki at N8N has uploaded a typical Google Assistant for Google Calendar, right? To get it, we simply go to Templates, okay? Open the window in the bottom left and search for Google Calendar Assistant. We search and two options appear. I use Dataki's, but the other likely works well and seems to have email integration. So how does this calendar specific agent function? Well, it has a trigger that receives a message. For example, we might tell the AI agent, create an event called N8N workflow review for next Tuesday. This AI agent will take into account the current date when receiving a message, okay? Calendar AI agents often think it's 2023 or so, depending on the model, as some aren't updated, right? They use the 2023 database, unaware we're in 2025. So we provide this info and add the prompt. Yeah, we tell it, you're a Google Calendar Assistant. Your main goal is to help users manage their calendar using two tools, creating and analyzing event. Well, more analysis than deletion, okay? Always base your responses on the current date, as I mentioned, right? The data part. And it says general guidelines, okay? Which are the main rules. If the user's message is vague or a generic greeting, don't respond. Instead, directly explain your capability. I'm Calendar. I can help you with any event-related task. For event creation, I'll ask for date, time, and other relevant details. This applies to each response, right? So that's a brief overview of the prompt, okay? Let me show you. Now, it's much clearer. Do you see here? Request and start and end dates from the user. It extracts the date from the user, see? And various other required information. That's basically how it creates the event for us. This extracted info is then processed by the ChatGPT model. We can use other LLMs besides ChatGPT without any issue. It also utilizes long-term memory. Right now it's set to 5 messages in the short term. Memory isn't really important here. And it says so here, right? Memory is temporary. If you want to store conversations, we already have a way to do that. By saving info in drives, drive documents, and so on. It has 2 settings, one for each tool. One extracts Google Calendar info for a specific date. For example, it checks if you have a meeting on a certain day and tells you yes or no. The other section creates events for you. We could go into it, but it's pretty much the same as usual. It uses the variables we've already set up. It gives you a brief description. Well, that's good. And that's how we can create this very basic agent. If we want to level up, it's just a matter of integrating things. Welcome to this template, which is essentially an artificial intelligence entity that will be creating an email summarizing our Zoom sessions, publishing tasks with ClickUp, and moreover, will continue to monitor the call. Here they describe a bit about what it does. So we're heading there, and once inside we see that the workflow starts essentially by hitting the test workflow button. And here what it will do is go to Zoom, fetch the date of the last meeting. This is a small filter that will primarily be taking the last 24 hours and will convert the information we have extracted from Zoom into transcript. Here it is. It places the Zoom API there, and through OAuth 2 it will perform the transcriptions. Here, if there is no recording available, we will encounter an error, but if there is, we will proceed with this one. Transcript filter, and basically what it's doing here is extracting the video transcript in this process, and finally it ends up getting the text from the transcript. Here it's doing it in Zoom, getting the file transcript, extracting the text from a transcript file. Zoom's transcript files, I'm not sure how they work, but sometimes they're styled like YouTube's CSV format, which shows the exact minute when something is discussed. Maybe you just want the text, not the timestamps for each part of the conversation. It changes the format for the text transcript, gets info on who the participants are to have a bit more context about what's being done. And here it's going to generate a summary. If we read it, basically what it does is create a formal meeting minutes from the following transcript and meeting detail. It then executes a few variables, inputs the transcript, and then asks to create the minutes in the following format. It includes the meeting, then the date, participants, and a brief summary with the main topics discussed. This is roughly what it asks HGVT, though it could be any other model, of course. The tricky part to replace here is Zoom, but we could probably manage to change that too. And basically, once we have this, it drafts it, takes the message, composes it, converts it to HTML format, and sends it via email. Also, from what I'm seeing here, it sends it through another AI agent. It passes this through this model, or rather, it passes it through this model to perform the task creation action. What we mentioned earlier about ClickUp. Here, as you can see, it inputs the task name, the description of the homework and such, and finally, it's set up to check the Outlook calendar. If a new call is scheduled, it'll add it. It's really well done. If you've agreed to a new call, it'll put it on the calendar and all. Make sure it works correctly. Here we have a sub workflow that's basically creating a task in ClickUp. It's this here, the create task trigger. It's currently disabled. To activate it, just click here and it'll be on. That's how this agent works. Here's a bit more explanation on how to set it up. You can find it in this summary provided by Friedman Switch. That's all.